Hey folks, Jessica here. We're in Granblue Fantasy, and this is going to be another quick PSA kind of video. So, if you aren't familiar, there was this Summer Fortune campaign, and if you logged in every day, you would get a ticket. And when the results were announced, which was, I think, yesterday, depending on what your numbers were, you might have won some rewards. If you had a tier 4 winner, you got some mats, and you're kind of sad because, like, you can get some gold moons, I guess. But for tier 3, you could pick a character from the grand pool. If you got tier 2, you could pick a character from the seasonal limited pool. And then if you got tier 1, then you could pick a superlative weapon, so a 100 gold moon weapon. Well, a lot of people didn't win anything. They won like the tier 4 stuff, which, honestly, that's not shocking. They're not going to just give away pick tickets for grands and limiteds and whatnot. Except, so many people didn't get anything that apparently they will just give away a pick ticket for grands and limiteds. Because I logged on today, and there's a 777 ticket that I don't know the conditions here, and I couldn't find them. I don't know if it's if you did not win on your tickets, you got one, or if everyone just got one, and if you won on your tickets, then you got an extra ticket. Who knows? But I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, since a lot of people are sitting on this ticket now, what they should pick. And again, I'm going to add the caveat that what you should pick is going to really depend on what your priorities are, but I'm going to give you some thoughts on what I think would be the best use of this ticket. Okay, so my first recommendation for how you spend this ticket is going to be actually fairly obvious for the endgame players. And I see a lot of people slam dunk recommending this. Take Belial. If you do not have a Belial, consider taking Belial as the #1 recommendation. A lot of people are just outright saying, slam dunk, take Belial, you're done. And I don't actually disagree with that, but I'll add some caveats and context around why people are saying Belial is so good. I'll actually flip over to my other tab where I have my fully uncapped Belial to give you an example of what he looks like fully uncapped. So the reason why people say take Belial is a huge damage gain overall to your team because of the sub aura on his summon. So if you have him as a sub summon, if you looked at animated Drids, I have Belial as a sub summon almost every single Drid I run. It's because he gives a fully uncapped, gives a flat 30,000 extra damage per hit as supplemental damage, and a 30% hit to max HP. So 30k supplemental per hit is significant. For characters that don't have attacks that do multiple instances of damage, they will have the least benefit. But even then, a character that just triples is going to get 90k extra damage because you're going to get 30k on each hit. But then a character like, say, Valentine's Grimnir, for example, whose attacks all count as 3 hits, is going to gain 270,000 extra damage on a triple, because it's adding 90k to each of his single attacks, because there are 3 instances, and there's 3 of those. So 30k, you can do the math, 30k times 3 times 3, right? But also, characters that have multi-hit nukes benefit from this as well. So think like Summer Kamhira with her 12-hit nuke. That gets 12 instances of 30k extra damage, or Katura with a 24-hit nuke. That gets 24 instances of 30k extra damage. You can kind of see where the gains are. Even in the case where you only gain 90k on a triple, that's significant. And that said, there is this downside of you lose 30%. It's a 30% hit to your max HP. Honestly, you probably don't care about this. If you do care about this, you're probably not an endgame player. I know that sounds kind of brutally honest, but it's true. Endgame players don't really care about this the vast majority of the time. And if there's ever a fight where you need every ounce of HP you can get, you can always just not bring Belial for that fight. But this is not a big deal at all. And then one more thing to talk about. When Belial is fully uncapped, his main aura, 130% boost to Dark Attack, cap allies HP at 20k. Again, if you really care about the HP thing, you're probably not an endgame player, or you're doing a very specific fight, which you could just not bring Belial for. But that all aside, cap damage taken at 5k per hit. this can trivialize some fights. If you want to see this in action, watch my solo video on the video where I solo Luminera Malice. This basically trivializes a lot of the mechanics there, because Luminera Malice will do giant attack that will like completely delete a character, but it will only hit for 5k because of this aura. So Belial is just a very, very, very powerful summon. But I'll address like what a lot of people are likely thinking. This is not going to be as big a deal for a newer player. This is kind of an optimization for a more endgame player. And then also, I know a lot of people don't want to take a summon with their ticket, because a summon like this, especially one that you're just using for a sub-aura, is mostly going to be a numbers game. And that's going to be less exciting for some people than taking character. I understand that. But I'm also going to point out, Belial is not sparkable, not normally ticketable. As far as I know, that might have changed recently. I don't think it has, though. And because Belial is not a sparkable character, or summon, he's a chase summon for a lot of people. A lot of people roll a lot of time just hoping to pull Belial. I've seen people go super deep into the rolls trying to pull a Belial just randomly. And because he's not sparkable, this is probably the easiest time you'll ever get a Belial. This is the easiest access you'll ever get to Belial. And by contrast, every other character here, every character in this pool is sparkable. So really, you gotta weigh those two things together. So let's say you do want to pick a character. I'm gonna be real upfront here, and some people aren't gonna like this, but I'm gonna say that if you have no idea what you're doing, consult the Game with tier list. I'm gonna link it in the description down below, and actually I will pull it up real quick so we can just have a look together. A lot of people bristle when they hear the words tier list. They don't like the idea of a tier list. They, for whatever reason, reject the idea of tier lists and like the idea of ranking characters based on effectiveness. I would say in this situation, get over it. Like, Granblue Fantasy is a well understood game. People have a clear understanding of which characters objectively perform the best overall, which characters output the most damage that are the biggest damage gain, which characters are the most useful for the most situations, which characters are the most useful for specific fights. This is all, and this is well understood. In a lot of ways, Granblue is a solved game. It's not a game where you're gonna find a secret meta by being creative and using a bunch of like, characters that people haven't thought about. Because people have thought about all the characters and how well they work together. So again, tier lists in this game are pretty accurate. They're a pretty good idea of how the characters can perform overall. And generally speaking, if you take someone that's higher on a tier list that you don't have, it's going to be a gain over taking someone lower on a tier list. That said, there's always going to be some exceptions. I think the one I just need to talk to right now, because someone's going to bring this up and be like, oh, well, clearly his tier list is wrong. Summer Zoe's not going to do anything for me. So Summer Zoe is the one exception out of the 10.0s. She is exceptionally powerful if you're running Dark Enmity. But if you are not running a Dark Enmity Druid and have no aspiration to run Dark Enmity, don't take her, because she adds 0 gain to your overall roster if you're not running Dark Enmity. So that's really the only exception out of the 10.0s. Otherwise, just go down the list. Just honestly, if you took this stance, if you don't take Belial and you're not playing Dark Enmity, just go down the list, sorted by point rankings, and look at the very first grand character, someone that you can take from this ticket that you don't already have, and have a serious think about whether or not that character makes sense for your team, because chances are that's going to be the best thing you can do with a ticket. So that said, I'm not going to go through the tier list. I will just give you some thoughts on each of the characters, each of the elements rather, and what I think the best picks for each element is. Because I know some people are just not going to look at the tier list, no matter how much I say you should just go look at it. So here, let's call out characters from each element. So we'll start right at the top. I'm going to be pretty brutal here. I am going to only select the characters that I think are the best possible choice for that element, and if we go below a certain bar in an element, I'm going to say just pick a character from a different element. If you're specifically focusing on one element, then your decision process is going to be a little bit different. And I'm not trying to talk to characters you like, because if you like a character and that's the most important thing to you, then honestly, you probably already used your ticket because you've already made your decision. Let's just jump into it. So for water, since it's right at the top, I would not recommend Catalina. So we're also not going to talk about the character's weapons. If you are picking something here purely based on weapon and what it does to your grid, you're likely advanced enough in this game that you already know what you should take. So we're not going to take Catalina. Catalina's just not like the best pick here. Let's see what else is there for water. Maybe Europa. Like, maybe Europa. She's still pretty relevant for a lot of teams. Would not say Drang. Like, don't take Drang. Maybe Folia. I would take Europa before Folia. I know I said I wouldn't talk about weapons, but Europa's weapon and Folia's weapon are pretty good, are pretty meta for water grids, water primal grids. And that's really it for water. It's not a lot of water Grand characters, actually, now that I look at it. So maybe Europa. But again, maybe. She's not... Overall, she's probably not the best choice. I might just say pick a character from a different element other than water, to be honest. Let's go to Dark since it's next. Maybe Black Knight. Maybe Orchid. Maybe Shalem. Shalem's actually pretty strong for Dark Charge Attack teams. Like, I'm saying maybe on characters like Black Knight and Orchid and Shalem, even though they are legitimately very powerful characters, because Dark is a very stacked element. And actually, now that we're talking about it, let's make it real simple for you. If you are playing Dark Enmity, and you do not have a Summer Zoe, or if you're playing Dark and you aspire to play Dark Enmity, and you do not have a Summer Zoe, pick Summer Zoe, and then close the video. You're done. Easy choice. Pick Summer Zoe, you're done. You made the right choice. This is non-negotiable. If you're playing Dark Enmity, you need a Summer Zoe. Flat period. You are missing out on like 80% of what makes Dark Enmity good without a Summer Zoe. Really easy choice here. Summer Zoe is the most powerful choice for a Dark Enmity team. She deserves a 10.0 if you're running Dark Enmity. So yeah, if you're playing Dark Enmity, pick her. Real simple. If you're not running Dark Enmity, I think actually the next best choice, I would not pick Fairy. The next best choice is going to be Rey. Now, Rey is an interesting character. I did a character spotlight on her. She's not going to be a frontline fighter that's like, you know, breaking the enemy in half with all their cool, like, super powerful attacks. What she's going to do is probably swap places with a back row character using her Moksha ability, her 2, give that character guaranteed triple and then all kinds of other buffs, and make them super powerful. She's essentially a huge steroid for another character. That's what Rey does, and she can do it to a degree that actually makes her one of the most powerful Dark characters. So I would recommend Rey very strongly if you don't need a Summer Zoe for whatever reason. And again, I'm being brutally honest here because these tickets are precious. Like, you can argue with my points if you want, but, well, you're wrong. I'm kidding, except I'm not. Oh, and I didn't even mention her. Don't take Olivia. Like all these Dark characters are good, but like it's Summer Zoe or Rey. Like those are clearly far and above the rest for the choice. For Earth, take Grand Sandalphon if you don't have him. He, I think, clearly is the strongest of these Grands, but I'll double check that by flipping through. The thing that Grand Sandalphon gets you, besides being a very strong attacker, is he also lets you kind of use your Earth team as your Omni farming team. By Omni farming, I mean the team you use to farm everything, potentially, because he has the ability to switch the boss to essentially being water, and essentially being disadvantaged against Earth. So if the fight's short enough, 5 turns basically, you can use an Earth team against it if you're running Grand Sandalphon. Golden Knight is mostly a niche character these days for some fun builds. I really wouldn't prioritize Golden Knight. Leona, I mean, Leona's good, just, again, a little overshadowed by other characters. And that's the thing, a lot of these characters are genuinely very strong, but overshadowed by other characters. And when you have the ability to pick any of them, you start getting into characters falling off by comparison. Eugen is a fun character, but again, suffers by comparison. What else is there? Kane has fallen off quite hard in recent times. Definitely wouldn't recommend Kane. And that's really it for Earth. Basically, wait, I skipped the character. Alexia is very good for Earth, but again, not to the same tier of usefulness as Grand Sandalphon. Alexia is also going to be primarily useful, I would say, for harder content where you need her damage cuts and just the utility she brings, but just not a general like farming character that's good in as many situations as Grand Sandalphon will be. So what's left? Wind. Dran Narmaya, easy pick. Easy pick. She is clearly the strongest option here for Wind. She does an absolutely tremendous amount of damage. Much like Holiday Narmaya, Earth Narmaya, Grand Narmaya is kind of broken, honestly, with a lot of setups. She does just so much damage. That's primarily what she'll bring you, but it's just so much damage. And her weapon, I know I said I wouldn't talk too much about weapons. Her weapon is very much a meta piece of the... It's a piece of the meta Wind Primal grid. So Grand Narmaya is an easy choice here. I was looking at some statistics for Perpetuity Rings, and the three most Perpetuity Ringed characters are Holiday Narmaya, Vajra, and Grand Narmaya, so we're in the Narmaya meta right now. Wouldn't take Rosetta, wouldn't take Alicia. Again, if I say don't take them, or they're maybe, it's not saying they're a bad character, but they're, again, not as good as some of your other options. Grimnir's an interesting choice. Grimnir's not as good as Grand Narmaya. I'm just going to say that outright in terms of the pick. But he is probably the next best option, and the issue with Grimnir is going to be he competes kind of with Valentine's Grimnir, because you only use one of them, obviously. If you don't have a Valentine's Grimnir, then consider Grimnir, but I would take Grand Narmaya first. As to whether or not Valentine's Grimnir or Grimnir are better, they're four different things, to be perfectly honest with you. But you can't run them both at the same time, so that's why I say Grimnir competes with Grimnir. What else is there for Wind? Might be it. I mean, just Monica. I mean, besides just Monica, I wouldn't pick Monica. She's just kind of fallen off by comparison, like a lot of these characters. So yeah, Grand Narmaya is an easy pick, and then maybe Grimnir. But if you're thinking Grimnir, maybe look at other elements as well, because he's right on the line of being like a strong enough pick to overshadow a character in another element. Let's see what element is left. Light. So Noah is primarily, I would say, for hard content, and I would not recommend you pick him here. Lucio, I know a lot of people love Lucio. Lucio's kind of fallen off, if you ask me, so I wouldn't recommend Lucio either. Actually, you know what? I'm going to jump right to the one I do recommend. Grand Nihan. If you don't have Grand Nihan, take Grand Nihan for Light. Grand Nihan has really elevated Light by existing. He is a meta definer by every sense of the word. Light cannot compete in the same way that it does now without Grand Nihan. Light has always struggled with being with doing enough damage to be competitive. Grand Nihan kind of fixed all that. In addition to really being everything Light wants, solving all of Light's problems, and then basically making Light strong in ways that really seem unfair to have in just one character. Like, in addition to being huge damage boosts, he gives guts to the whole team just by being on it. Grand Nihan is just exceedingly powerful for a character. By the way, a lot of these characters, Grand Nihan, Summer Zoe, Grand Narmaya, what's the other one I mentioned? Grand Sandalphon, those are all 10.0s on GameWith. So you kind of see like why they're 10.0s on GameWith. So take Grand Nihan if you don't have them. If you do have a Grand Nihan, or you just refuse to follow my advice, I think let's talk about the other characters. I think the next best character to take after that is going to be Grand Jeanne d'Arc. Grand Jeanne d'Arc is an exceedingly powerful character for Light. She's simple. Like, she's kind of basic, honestly. Her kit doesn't do anything weird. It just does the stuff you want it to do. It buffs the team, debuffs the enemy, gives you Assassin. But all the things she does are very useful, very good, and to a magnitude that's very good. So she's probably the next best pick for Light after Grand Nihan. It's going to pain me to say this, but I probably would not take Granvira because Granvira is primarily for hard content. She's very good there, but not like essential for general usage. Grand EO is good, but again, don't pick her. She's not at the same tier of the other characters. Also pains me to say this, but probably don't take Grand Cagliostro either. I love Grand Cagliostro, but like again, just not the same level of power. And again, I'm being very brutally like clear here on what is worth it and what's not, because you're only getting one of these tickets unless you're my dad, who got 1 tier 2 and then 2 tier 3 tickets. And if you're wondering what I recommend to my dad and what he's doing, I believe he's taking Belial, Nihan, and what is the last one? Oh, he's taking Belial, Nihan, and Holiday Normaya. And then he's sparking Grand Normaya. My dad, pro gamer. So, what elements are left? I think it's just... Is it just fire? I think it's just fire. Yep, I think it's just fire. So, who's even on here for fire? Fire really doesn't allow grand characters, does it? Not Rackham. Not Reinhardt Tsar. There was a point when Shiva was very top tier, but he has fallen off, honestly, so it's not Shiva either. Definitely not Mugen, who's very, like, weird to use, honestly. And it's not Sturm either. Honestly, Sturm's, like, all these characters are fine, but Sturm, you know, Ixaba, right? But again, we're not picking based on weapon, or at least, you know, I'm not giving recommendations based on weapon. So if you're thinking fire, I would just pick a different element. So there you go. That's my recommendations for every element. One more thing to mention, though. You have until September 30th to spend this ticket. So if you're patient, and I know not everyone is, I would actually hold on to the ticket until we're through all the free pulls, because you don't want to, you know, you don't want to pick a character and then pull the character. There's also likely another banner at the end of the month that has all the swimsuit characters. So I know a lot of people will be sparking on that banner. And that's going to be, a lot of these grand characters will be on that banner. So, again, if you can handle waiting until then, I would wait till then to make sure you don't pull a character. Like, I think if you ask me what I was going to pick today, there's 2 choices that would help for me today. I would either just grab Grand Normaya again, well, grab Evanescence, because I need another copy of Evanescence. Or, potentially... I could get Reinhardt Tsar, who I don't have, but I wouldn't actually use the character. It'd be nice to fill out the collection, but I'd mostly be getting Reinhardt Tsar for the weapon, because I just got a Vilnius recently, and if you have Vilnius and double Agni, it actually only takes 2 fully uncapped Reinhardt Tsar weapons to fully cap your crit. 2 Reinhardt Tsar weapons, I think this is a Fist of Destruction. Is this Fist of Destruction? Yeah, 2 Fists of Destruction fully uncapped with double Agni and a Vilnius sub-summon is 100% crit, which is very powerful. So I consider that. That'd be my choice. But here's the thing, like I said, there's some summer characters I kind of want to spark for, so I will probably spark on that end of the month banner. And guess what? Both Grand Normaya and Reinhardt Tsar are on that banner. So... I don't want to spend the ticket now, because if I did, I might pull on that banner and then pull the character or the weapon that I already ticketed. So my recommendation is, if you can handle the wait, then wait. If you can't, then, well, I mean, you make your own choices. So yeah, conclusions. I know some people are going to be like, but I like Blood character. My advice isn't about who you like. That's your choice. I know some people are going to be like, I don't want to take a summon. That's fine, that's your choice. But I'm giving you advice on what's going to likely be the most beneficial gain in terms of power to your roster. If that is not the metric you're using to measure your success in this game, or your excitement in this game, then this advice is not going to be necessarily relevant for you. So yeah, trying to be very clear of this, because I think these tickets, a lot of people get emotionally worked up about who they should pick. So that's my advice based on the metric of what's going to be the power level game. And yeah, again, I'm going to link the game with tier list. Have a look at that, if that is at all helpful in you understanding where these characters stack up. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!